What's up, everyone? Welcome in to another episode of the Dairyland Drive. Colin Telbert, as always, with Riley Ashe and Mike Schneider. The draft is over. The roster is somewhat set. We'll see if it is completely complete. But for the next about 7 or 8 weeks here, we're just going to talk about each position group on each side of the ball, how free agency went, how the draft went, how we feel about that position group for the Green Bay Packers, and just see how long that takes us. A little bit more laid back, maybe some debates, maybe some disagreements, maybe a lot of agreements. We will see how it goes. But first things first, Mike, Riley, how was your weekend and start of your week so far?
Weekend's been good. Watching some Stanley Cup playoff hockey, a little bit of NBA. Oh, all in all, good stuff. Great time of the year.
Same. Couple game sevens were fun. Kentucky Derby got me interested for about an hour. Weather's finally starting to warm up down here at least, so things are looking up.
Yeah, been a lot of game sevens. I feel like across the NBA and NHL that have been pretty or fairly exciting. But that's what keeps, I think, me invested. At least with the Blackhawks sucking is a lot of these game six, game sevens that are just awesome atmospheres. Then even NBA, this is honestly probably the most NBA that I think I've watched in I don't know how long. I don't know why, but maybe it's just because it's on and nothing else is on. But all right, well, let's get right into it. The NFL draft happened not too long ago. We kind of broke down all of the Packers' 8 draft picks and some of their undrafted free agents. But for this episode, we're going to get into the secondary. Maybe one of the more interesting position groups, maybe the biggest question mark of the entire roster right now. So we'll just kind of get right into it and leave it kind of an open debate. Just looking at this past year, points allowed, the Packers secondary. So this was just as a team, 19.9 points per game, which is 6th in the league, which is kind of crazy to think because I know there was maybe a lot of games that the defense frustrated you, but I think a lot of the times people still forget how good the defense was statistically across the board. Total yards allowed, 314, a little bit over that. That was 5th in the league. Passing yards allowed, still the top half, 215 passing yards. Again, that was 13th in the league. Interceptions, Packers had 17 this past year, which is 3rd in the league. Takeaways, they were one of 4 teams in the NFL with 30 or more takeaways. They had 31 total, 17 picks, like I said, and 14 forced fumbles and recoveries. So just looking at the secondary, of course, returning a big bulk of the safeties and some of the corners, Xavier McKinney, the All-Pro, Evan Williams, Javon Bullard, Zane Anderson, Patano Adipo. That's the safety room for the corner. We're going to say he's returning for now. Jair Alexander, he is still on the roster technically. Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine. The losses, Eric Stokes, Corey Ballantyne. And then a couple newcomers, Nate Hobbs, one of the big free agent acquisitions, and then Micah Robinson, the 7th round pick, the 237th pick in the draft. So, first off, with Jair Alexander and then without Jair Alexander, just looking at the secondary group as a whole, how do you feel as a Packers fan, I guess, going into 2025 on paper? And you can kind of look at it for both ways. Let's start with if Jair isn't on the roster, and this is the group that you move forward with. If Jair is released or traded or whatever, do you have faith in just this group going into 2025 for week 1? If this is your starters in the back end and at corner, and either one of you can start.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going into it already expecting him not to be there. I'm I'm fine with who they have. I mean, I don't think they have any superstars per se in the cornerback room. Uh, I don't know really too much about Nate Hobbs. I think he's pretty solid from what I've seen so far. I think Keyshawn Nixon has showed that he can hold up on the outside. I love that he's aggressive in open field tackling too. Uh, I think Carrington Valentine, I think he can be a dog out on the outside. Um, I think his tackling ability is a little more questionable than Keyshawn's. We saw him get just absolutely little boyed by Dallas Goedert in that playoff game, just getting stiff armed like 3 times in a row. But then the week before against Chicago, you saw him cause a fumble, I think, against DJ Moore too. So he's a little more inconsistent, I would say. Um, I think Javon. I don't know how you would characterize Javon Bullard. I think he does play down in the slot some, and I don't know like if he is really even that good last year in that spot, but I think he has an opportunity still to develop if they throw Hobbs out on the outside and put Bullard down in the slot. Um, I think they can win with this group. I think part of it is going to obviously depend on the rush getting home and causing some pressure and some quick throws for them to create some turnovers, create some passive defense. But even though there isn't a superstar without Jair, and I would even consider Jair a superstar anymore at this point, I still feel confident in our cornerback group at the moment that we can win with them.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say I'd be if confident would be the word I would use. I think I'd be okay with it. Decent. Maybe a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. I do think without Jair, there is 2 ways you could go. So they are a little versatile. There's a little bit of depth. You could go with Keyshawn and Nate Hobbs outside and start like Mike just said, start Bullard in the slot, or you could go Allentyne outside with either Nixon or Hobbs outside, and the other one plays the slot. So basically, just with Nixon and Hobbs being able to play outside and inside. And I think that's going to be the biggest question to me going into training camp. And I'm sure they're going to show us right away is which one of those two is going to be the primary slot guy. Because I'm assuming one's going to get some reps there and then one's strictly going to be outside. At least I would hope they're not going to mess around with taking reps away from whatever one they think is solely going to be outside. Yeah, I like Bullard. I think he should be their slot guy. Their starting slot guy if Jair is gone. Obviously, you're not going to touch the 2 safeties of McKinney and Williams. They are what they are. But I think them spending a second-round pick on Bullard just a year ago, and he wasn't bad last year. He kind of got banged up. Yeah, I think he was coming into what he was going to be, and he got banged up. And yeah, so I think I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the group without Jair. There is a little bit of depth. I don't think it's the depth that you want. I think if Jair is going to be gone, they hopefully would look to free agency and bring in somebody else, but it's the Packers, so maybe not. They got some other guys, like you said. They got Micah Robinson they drafted. They have Kalen King from last year that they drafted, they kept around. Then all of a sudden this week they're talking about that Jonathan Baldwin, undrafted free agent out of UNLV. That's a safety, but they listed him as a corner, and he's getting more guaranteed money than their 7th-round pick. So they obviously he was a big deal in the undrafted world. So there's a little bit of depth, and yeah, I'm okay with it. Not super confident, but I'm okay with it.
All right, so we'll jump on the merry-go-round. We'll join the circus here for Jair Alexander, and what back and forth it's been. I think we've said multiple times, like no one truly knows what's going on. I think in that organization on each side, we've seen reports of that we could see him coming back and potentially, maybe trying to restructure his contract to get him on a little bit more friendly deal this next year. But then we've also seen Jair's camp come out and say, "Oh, I'd rather be cut so I can pick what team, I could play for next." And obviously trade is on the table as well. But let's say if the stars align, let's see if Jair and the Packers somehow restructure his contract where he's not playing at $17.5 million. Maybe it is a lower, base salary and a lot of things that he can kind of hit those throughout the season. If he joins this cornerback room and does come back, do you think this is the biggest strength all of a sudden on this defense? Just looking at it on paper, if Jair is on the corner, I'm not going to say completely Jair because I just don't want to throw that in there, but let's just say Jair's on the roster. Week 1, he's healthy. That's not guaranteeing he's going to be healthy all, 17 games. But week 1, Jair is on this team. Does this all of a sudden go from maybe a lack of depth and we're okay with it to like, oh shit, this could be a really, really good secondary with what you have on the back end and some of the pieces you add.
Boy, I don't know. Just with his history of injuries and not being available, I'm not gonna give him my vote of confidence. I guess that he's gonna be available all season. I mean, that's great if he does stay healthy for the whole year and he shuts down receivers like he does. But um, I think ever since that shoulder injury back in 2021, I think it was, he hasn't had the same dog mentality in terms of tackling and being aggressive in the open field like he had before. I think he's pretty much just a pure cover corner at that point. You can't really rely on him to be a run, be a player in the run game anymore. Um, I mean, yeah, he provides you a little more depth then, but gosh,
So
I don't know.
you
That's such a
So are you saying you think the days of him being like a QB or a cornerback one are done with? You think at this point is that what I'm kind of gathering of like you think the injuries and just how the last couple of years have gone that that's behind him that he is maybe just a good piece to a team?
just about, yeah. I mean, to me, he's kind of hovering on that line a little bit. Like, I think he can be like a shutdown corner, but I don't know. Just feel like he's made some decisions the last few years. Um, and his availability with his health. I don't know. To me, he's probably like a strong cornerback too. At this point, that's just my opinion. Um, I think they are better when he's out there, obviously. But to me, I don't know if he's like the top 5 cornerback one in the league anymore, in my eyes.
Yeah, I'm the complete opposite. I think he still could be that dude. I think any defensive back, take away last year, he was hurt last year, obviously, the majority of the season. I think if you put defending the run game on any Packer DBs, take away last year, the 5 years before that, actually, probably the 10 years before that, it's unfair because the Packers' run defense has been shit since 2015. Fucking Swiss cheese. We all know that. Oh, I'd probably be taking business decisions too, as many tackles as they had to make a game. So I think that's a little bit unfair to me just because just their run defense fucking sucked for so long. Um, so I mean, I don't know. We'll see how healthy he is if he does come back. I've been in the camp since the beginning, since we started this podcast, that he's going to come back. It just makes no sense for him to be gone if they didn't find a trade partner. They still have money in their salary cap. They have their 90-man roster, but like, there's literally no fucking point for him to get cut. Next year, yeah, because next year we've already looked at or I've looked at the numbers and seen people on X talking about it, how fucking they're already over. They're gonna have to make some cut downs and stuff like that. So I think this is Jair's last year as a Packer, unless he's gonna take a massive pay cut, which obviously his mentality, I think we can all say that's probably not gonna happen. So unless he just goes absolutely off this year, which, like I said, I think is possible. I think this is probably the last year of Jair, but to me, it makes no sense for him to be gone. I think he can be that top guy, top 5 cover guy. I still think he has it in him, especially with the run defense being better in front of him. Having just an all pro safety behind him, actually for an entire year, I think is a game changer. And I think Halfley, I mean, I think Halfley is by far the best defensive coordinator he's had. If he seems like the type of guy that maybe can rein him in a little bit. Jair wants to be that guy that goes with the number 1 receiver all over the field. And maybe Mike's right. He has dropped off a little bit and he's not that guy anymore. But I think Halfley is the guy that can rein him in and say, all right, Jair, you're going to fucking take away the number 2 receiver and we're going to double the number 1 on the other side. And that could be his thing, and he literally will have top 5 cornerback numbers, and maybe that's what the Packers need if their pass rush doesn't get home. But yeah, I think just him coming back, hopefully, and just how Halfley is, high energy. I think he relates really well with all the players, and just the combination of not having to be in the run game every freaking play like he has been his entire career. I think I think he can return to that. Maybe not top 5. Maybe I'm not as confident thinking about it as we go here, but definitely a top 10 corner. I think he can return to being that guy, and he makes that room so much better.
I think is it fair to say he would be the best overall corner on the roster if he returned? I think we can all come in agreement on that, just with like what they have there.
Yes.
Mike, can you come to agreement on that? Surely, at least on the roster. Let's not look at the entire league. That's obviously up for debate because yes, you have to stay healthy and he has to play more than 8, 12 games, whatever it's been the last like few years. But I guess from your perspective, Mike, like what would you be comfortable with if Jair does return? Do you think he has to take like a big pay cut and restructure and be high incentives? Is it a hell if he comes back on 17 and a half and it's a 1 year deal? Let's try to get the best out of him if he's playing on a 1 year prove it deal, or does that not matter for you? Just make a freaking decision. Is that kind of where you at with all that?
I don't care about the money. It ain't my money. I just care that we have players on the roster who can play and play well. I don't care what their number is.
Sure.
I mean, give him more money for all I care. But yeah, I would say 1 year, 17.5 million, whatever he's making. If that makes him happy, then fine. If they can come to an agreement where it's 1 year, 10.5 million and some incentives, even better. But yeah, I mean, I would agree that he's probably the best corner on the team.
And I think he would it would kind of unlock where everyone could be in their like comfortable spot too. I think in the rest of the cornerback room, because like Keyshawn Nixon probably he's not a cornerback one. He's probably a comfortable cornerback too. Like he showed that he can hang out there though. But I think he's still a lot of unproven. Like that was truly what his first every year in his career really playing outside corner as much as he did. But you can also kind of swap, him and Nate Hobbs, where they've, both have played outside corner, but they've also been comfortable inside. So yes, Jair, 1 has to be on the roster, 2 has to stay healthy. Those are 2 very big ifs. But I do think overall, everyone else kind of slides into maybe their more comfortable role where you could maybe get at least in the cornerback room. And then if you have a Valentine as your cornerback 3, cornerback 4 as depth, and then some of these other rookies, I think that's a pretty good secondary, at least in the cornerback room on paper. And it's super nice to have just an eraser at the back end for McKinney. I mean, Riley, you can talk a little bit about it too. Like how much does it change in the NFL if you do have a shit pass rush, or maybe the corners aren't as great, to have just someone on the back end there that can just cover so much stuff up. Like it just is almost your defensive coordinator's like best friend, I would say, outside of having some disruptive pass rushers, to have an all-pro safety there on the back end.
Yeah, but if they don't have a pass rush, it just forces you to like do more zone, which it's zone. There's so many different types of zone you can do, and I know it gets a lot more complex in the NFL, but it all comes back to basically 3 different types of zone. It's going to be some type of cover 2, cover 3, or cover 4, right? So it's just he is an athletic freak, obviously, McKinney, but it's also how smart he is. He can recognize you go back to all his interceptions he started the year with last year is just him jumping routes that you just think he wouldn't be there. So it's all formation and play recognition. The offense can come line up and he can just see how they're aligned, how wide the receivers are, like their depth and stuff, and just he knows exactly what formation combination they're going to do and what play they're going to run before it even happens. It's just his intelligence. If they're going to play man, it's just knowing that if you're supposed to have safety help, whether it's him or it's Evan Williams, if McKinney's on the field, that's probably going to happen. So I think it just saves the corners a lot. And he showed last year how much he communicates. So just how versatile you can be. But going back, I think the biggest question for me, and if Jair is there, or even either way, it doesn't matter. Who would you guys rather have in the slot? Would you rather have Nixon or would you rather have Hobbs? Because I keep going back and forth. Nixon, he'll throw it up in there in the run game. And if you're going to play man, the entire game, depending on the pass rush, which they didn't last year. And that, to me, that's why Nixon was as good as he was at outside corner last year, because they didn't play man that much. He's not an outside man corner. He can't. He's not big enough. Those bigger receivers, if he's playing man, are going to beat the shit out of him. I'm sorry. I love Nixon, but he can't stand there at the 6'3", 6'4" receiver and play man the entire game. He's got to go to the slot, and that's why I think they brought Hobbs in. But if they think they're going to play more zone, Nixon can sit out there because he does find the ball. He uses his eyes great. He will tackle. And Hobbs is bigger. He's also good. They're both good against the run in the slot. So who do you guys want in the slot more? Which one would you lean?
Well, I can only go by what I've seen. I haven't really watched much of Nate Hobbs. I've seen Keyshawn get after it in the run game and make tackles out on the outside, so I'd probably have to say Keyshawn, if that's what we're drawing it down to, is run support, probably Keyshawn. And just going by the argument you just made there, Riley, with him not being that great man corner on the outside, probably Keyshawn, I suppose. But I mean, wasn't he kind of exposed though in the slot before when he tried playing there? So, I mean, I don't know.
Just the size.
It feels like a double-edged sword. I don't know. It feels like you have versatility, but at the same time, there's weaknesses that can get exposed. I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of goes back and forth too on like certain matchups too, and like what the other team has. I think at receiver, what team you're playing, but I think even like you asking that question is exactly I think what Halfley wants teams to like ask is who the fuck is going to be playing in the slot, who's going to be on the edge, like what defense are we going to see? Are we going to see some man? Are we going to see some zone? And I think like all this versatility, being able to play them all over the place, I think is going to let Halfley be a lot more creative because again, we don't know what the pass rush is going to be. And again, that's another episode here in a couple of weeks. Like, yes, we hope it's going to be better, but there's a good chance it could be the same or maybe just a little bit better. And if it's even just a little bit better, are you going to be able to do a lot of the things that Halfley wants to do that he wasn't able to do and have to play a lot more zone? I personally would like Nixon probably in the slot more than outside. I think you're going to see both of it. Just because I do think Hobbs is a little longer and I think he has that capability. I know like his numbers haven't been great on the outside and his rating has been a lot better on the inside. But again, I think that maybe was more so the fit previously and maybe what he was asked to do. And again, if Jair's going to be mainly on the outside and back on this team, I think that would kind of take a little bit pressure off both of them. But I think specifically Hobbs to be able to play on the outside in both situations, and then like Nixon kind of like your Swiss Army knife. I think that's where he's the best, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think I like him more in the slot, but my hot take is 'cause I didn't know which way you guys were going to go before I preface this. If I was going to put my best three corner or my if I'm putting a nickel package out there, my two safeties are McKinney and Williams, obviously. Outside corner is Hobbs and Jair. I'm sorry, I'm not even starting Nixon. I think Bullard's better. I think he's bigger. I think he's better in the slot. I think you can do more with him. So I love Keyshawn, but and I don't want to be he has made plays, obviously, on defense, but I think there's a reason he's been just a return guy his entire career. He's literally just his size. It's just nothing he can freaking do. He's not a big guy. His size is not that big. He will make plays. I think he's a great depth piece, but I don't know. I like that combination of those five that I just said would be that I like the best. And I don't know how hot of a take that is or how many people that would piss off, but that's what I would do.
That was actually one of the questions I had down. Depending how this went or what direction went. If Jair didn't return, is Bullard taking the next step? Probably the biggest X factor of this entire like almost defense, but for sure the secondary. And it seems like we all kind of agree, especially if Jair doesn't return and you are playing Nixon and Hobbs on the outside. I would think Bullard could maybe take this defense to like an even higher level. So I agree with you. Like, I think there is like an impact and a role that Nixon can have. And again, he could like prove it. I think he kind of proved his worth a little bit this last year when he was maybe forced into some situations that one, he's never been in, and two, a lot of a lot of people across the league didn't think that he could do. I don't think a lot of people thought that he could be an outside corner and, cover other teams' best players or move around. And he did show some good signs. But yeah, obviously he did get exposed a lot too. But he does make some plays. So I think there is some role. And yes, if you ask him, he's got the confidence of Jair as well. I think that must just rub off on everyone in the secondary. That's just what all defensive backs do, is they are the best. No one is better, and they're sticking to it.
Yeah, I think you need that mindset to play that position, though. Like, you got to have a little delusion to be able to play on an island or go up against a team's best player.
Yeah.
You got to have you got to have that confident mindset that you're gonna shut them down.
The most entertaining position, I think, in the game, even when they have no impact on a play, they would make you think that they had every single thing to do with the play. All right, 2 more questions. So I mentioned 17 interceptions last year by the Packers secondary. That was 3rd in the NFL. So, over under. I'm going to give you 14 and a half. 14 and a half interceptions from the secondary in 2025. Mike, over or under that in your opinion?
I'll go over again. I mean, that's 14 and a half. That's less than 1 a game. I think they can do that. Have a couple games with multiple picks. Even if you go a game or 2 without any, I still think that number's totally doable.
Yeah, I think I'd easily go over. The interceptions they had last year with a shit pass rush and with dealing with injuries all year. I think Halfley can really amp it up when it comes to schemes. I think I'm not gonna say he's gonna be like a Brian Flores, like crazy psychotic stuff, but kind of going off what we were just talking on, if Bullard can play in the slot, I think it's going to be interesting when we go into training camp. If either you guys go watch, is if are they having McKinney and Williams? Are they going to be down playing man at all? I think if you can get 3 safeties and to start disguise and stuff with Bullard's versatility and experience already playing safety, if you can get one of those guys to come down and play man, you can rotate an entire half of the field zone wise and then confuse some quarterbacks, especially the younger ones that they will be playing in Minnesota and in Chicago. Caleb Williams will do some dumb stuff, I still think. And yeah, I don't know. I just think there's a lot of stuff that Halfley could do. I think with just the injuries and the lack of pass rush, we saw the most basic of basic we're ever going to see Halfley do. Which unfortunately, I think this will probably be our last year with Halfley. I think the defense is going to go crazy this year if they stay healthy, and he'll be a head coach somewhere else, which sucks. But yeah, I think we're just scratching the surface with how psychotic his brain is and how crazy he wants to be.
Colin, I just want to ask a question real quick. Is
Absolutely.
that number just for the secondary or for the defense as a whole?
So this is just interceptions, 14 and a half
Yeah.
interceptions. Yeah, just for the secondary. Yeah.
Okay, so just for the secondary?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, because I figured
Counting Simmons in that,
counting what?
Isaiah Simmons, are we counting him? I have him down in my notes. I was going to bring him up at some point in time as the hybrid guy.
Well, I thought like with
I'll count him.
interceptions, I mean, I figured Edge Cooper and maybe Quay are good for 3. Yeah, I don't know if we were factoring those numbers into the over under here or not, or if we're just looking purely secondary.
Well, what did
No, it's
McKinney
1 or 2.
what did McKinney have last year as a whole? Did he have 8 or
7 or 8,
7 or 8?
I
Okay.
think.
Does that change your answer if it's just the secondary? And I will count Simmons, and that
Maybe.
makes the roster. No linebackers, no crazy Lucas Van Ness, just super athletic. Prove Riley wrong. Jump in the air, tip the ball up, get a pick. Either just the secondary.
It might.
It might.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's why I put it. I thought 14 and a half was fair. But all right, one more question, then if you want to have any final thoughts. So if you look at key points in a game, so let's say we are breaking down a game on the following episode. We're talking about the Packers game, and we look at the secondary. Are they more likely to win you a game in those key moments? Or are they more likely to cost you a game in key moments? If you just initial reaction, just off the top of your head, if you're looking at the secondary as a whole, what would you think if you're recapping a game? If it is a win or loss, what would you go with?
They're going to win you a game just because of Xavier McKinney and his leadership, and you can tell he's the leader of that defense. Like he doesn't call the plays. Obviously, Quay's probably going to again, but McKinney calls everything back there, and he's not gonna. If there's a fuck up, it's because whoever fucked it up literally didn't listen. So, I mean, I guess it could go both ways, but I don't really see that happening. I don't. I think they've been together a year now. Besides Hobbs, and Hobbs, I don't know. He's been in the league 4 or 5 years. It's not like he's like a new guy. So, and he's coming to a team that expects to be good. So I think in his first year, he's not going to have any of those flubs. And yeah, I just think with how McKinney reacted at the end of the year last year when they were kind of slipping and then the playoff loss, he was not happy with that. He liked being on a team that was actually good coming from the Giants. I think he's even going to take the next step as a leader. I don't think the secondary is not going to be the reason they lose a game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say I trust Jeff Hafley to put them in the right spot, make the right calls in the game, and I think they would be more likely to be the reason they win a game rather than lose a game because of Jeff Hafley.
All right. I agree as well. All your points, valid points. I won't even follow up with it because you two knocked it out of the park. All right. Any closing thoughts before we get to the final drive? I don't know if Riley, if you want to talk about Simmons a little bit. Mike, do you have anything to add? But wrapping up the secondary, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I've said this before. This is the most pumped for a training camp I've been in so long because I have no idea where they're going at any of these, how it's all going to lay out DB wise, and then the Simmons thing, like I've talked about last week, he is such an X factor if he can figure it out. And I mean, they're saying all the right things about him right now and all these ideas, and they think they can get him back to where he was and blah blah blah. And I hope they're right because he's obviously a physical specimen that, with the way the division wants to play, with the way Detroit has played, and I know new offensive coordinator, obviously, they're still going to do the same stuff. Dan Campbell was a tight end. They're going to use multiple tight ends. So Chicago probably doing the same things. Obviously, their first round pick with Loveland, they already have Kmet kind of reflected also using 2 tight ends. I think Simmons is such an X factor. So seeing how they actually use him going into training camp, and they're obviously not going to show their hand and everything, but you're going to get a general idea of where guys are probably playing at when it comes to the slot, or how they use Simmons, or where he's at, if he's even out there in any of those situations at all, or maybe they see him as strictly a linebacker. I don't know. But yeah, just pumped for training camp. Can't wait for the end of July, early August to get here to get some basic questions answered in my head at least.
Do you see him as a special teams role player at all, Riley? So I feel like the depth from this secondary, the back end of it at least, is probably going to come from special teams.
Yeah, it should. I mean, just look at the group on paper that you have. I think their safety group and then Simmons and a couple of the corners. I think this is coverage-wise, this should be the best coverage special teams units they have in a long time. But yeah, I think I see Simmons if he makes the team. He'll definitely contribute on special teams heavily in all of them, because even in that hybrid role, like I'm talking about, I mean, not every team does that. So in some games, he might only play 8 defensive snaps a game, but in some games he might play 30, just depends. So yeah, I think if he does make the team, he'll also have a huge hand in all of the special teams.
And who knows, by end of July, early August, maybe we will finally have an answer of Jair Alexander. What the heck is he doing on the team, not on the team? If he's not on the team, where will he be playing? I think that's still the biggest question mark left, especially in the secondary, but maybe even the entire defense. All right, let's go to the final drive. And it's going to be a little different one, a little fun one this week. Trying to get ideas of trying to mix things up every single week. After our show last week, it was the idea of let's do something off of tattoos. So, all right, before we get into the game, we're going to put Riley on the spot because he just got some new ones. Didn't even get to prepare for this. Riley, I want you to talk me through every single one of your tattoos, how many you have, and let's see how quickly you can go through all of them. Ready, set, Go.
All of them. So everything on my left arm. Oh God, are we doing video? And everything on my left arm is all Nordic. So on my forearm, it's just Nordic runes, but it's like their alphabet, so it's my last name. Um, like this is on my elbow. I have like the Viking compass. It's not a real compass. Each like head like means a different thing. Don't ask me to list off all 8 of them right now. I'm gonna fuck one of them up, so I'm not gonna try. I have a wolf on my forearm as well. If anybody knows any Nordic stuff, Odin's like pet Fenrir was a wolf. Played a big role in that. I have an arrow. That's just a Nordic rune as well. That was basically just a filler. I just needed something for the back of my arm, so I said, "F it." I have an arrow like piercing my. Also, this is all my forearm has a lot of shit. Uh, Arrow piercing, obviously, just arrows they use to fight, obviously, and it's piercing my skin. So just my personal like battle scars. I also have one in my quad that's like a claw with eyeballs looking out that are like inner demons, my old inner demons. For any listeners that don't know, I used to be just fat as hell, like fat. I've lost like 175 pounds. So that's like my daily reminder not to be a fat fuck, basically. I have a big bull. It was important for Nordics as well. I also got that because like in Nordic, it's like stubborn and tough, which I think if anybody also would know me or just my dad, kind of would probably be the 2 ways to describe us, plus being assholes, but stubborn, tough. Then I have the helm of awe on my shoulder. Just it's very similar to the other one, but it's just like a protection thing. And on the back of my arm, I have like lightning bolts. And then I have a double axe on my bicep, on my inner bicep. I just got some Nordic runes, just and spelling it out in Nordic. It just says BU. And then my new ones on my chest, I have a little symbol that looks like it's just like double axes. Where there's um, I have a Nike swish. I lost a bet. I want to talk about it. Lost a bet. I did the Nike swish, whatever. On my inner chest, I have a big Spartan dude with like a sword going through. So yeah, left side arm is all Nordic shit. My chest now is all Greek stuff. Oh, I got a quote too. I have a Latin quote on my ribs. That's also Greek. And then the personal one is on my quad. I don't know if I got all of them or not, but I think that was close.
Well done. Mike was just so jealous listening through every single one of those, I think. As Mike is still contemplating, I think, possibly entering that realm. We'll see. Maybe you going through all of those will maybe give him a little bit of a nudge. But all right, well, so yes, going off of all those tattoos, trying to relate it to sports, trying to brainstorm a few ideas. Saw this one of let's do kind of a little bit of a build a scenario. So you're gonna kind of build. I'm going to say it's not a team. It's more so, like I said, kind of a cool scenario where you're going to give me an athlete. Can be retired, current, any sport, don't care. What image or icon is the tattoo on this athlete? Where is the athlete at for body placement? Is there a quote or a word with it? And then the reason why this athlete got this tattoo. Can be any reason whatsoever. So to recap, an athlete, an image and icon, body placement, a quote and or word, and then the reason for getting the tattoo. All right. So all 3 of us brought one scenario going into this. Mike's going to get this up on the socials. Maybe get a poll with it to see who wins and to do some voting. I'll get it started here. So this is Colin's build a tat draft for the final drive rankings. All right. My athlete, maybe one of my favorite recent memory fighting Illini, Coleman Hawkins. All right, Mike knows Coleman Hawkins. Riley for sure knows Coleman Hawkins. Okay. Coleman Hawkins, as you know, is very boisterous. He lets everyone know when he's doing well, and just in general, I think he had like a segment on a couple different podcasts. His image and icon is a crying, sad-faced Bucky Badger.
Oh my God. Fuck off.
All right. That is going to be on his left bicep because he has a full sleeve on his other right arm. So this one's going to be on his left bicep. The quote And the word going to be right above Bucky Badger is 7-0. The reason why he got it, because guess what? He dominated Wisconsin in his college career. He went 7-0 against the Badgers in 4 years. That included a Big Ten tourney champion title 2 years ago. The reason why it's on his biceps, Mike, because he flexed on the Badgers, man. He flexed on them, had some big games. Coleman Hawkins, the sad, crying Bucky Badger, 7-0 above it. Left bicep. Drop that one. Amazing tattoo. Amazing tattoo.
That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
That would be salty, I think, right there. I think Riley likes it. Riley might even think about getting it now.
That should be a good idea.
I'm done. I'm hanging out.
All right. Either one of you can go next. That's when I'm going to try to put that into ChatGPT or something and try to get that on Coleman Hawkins, see if I can get it up there, an image for you, but shouldn't be too hard. I'm sure there's something out there like that.
Riley, you want to go? You want me to go?
I can go. All right. My athlete, which I showed you guys before the show, and Mike guessed it instantly, so I guess I actually got an image. I don't know if we're going to do a video, but I'll show you so you can wait the 10 seconds, see if you guys can guess what that would be before I tell you. All right. Give you 5 seconds. All right, that's good enough. Whatever. All right, my athlete, Nikola Jokic. So if you saw that, all right, first off, Google says he doesn't have any tattoos. He's always been, I think everybody can and view him as he's just like that goofy guy. All he likes is his horses. But yeah, no tattoos according to Google, all this stuff. His nickname is Joker. So I got a image of Joker, the newest Joker, on a horse and buggy, because there was that image of him, or a bunch of images and videos of him back home in Serbia, just riding around on it, just following his horse, talk whatever. So I got the Joker on a horse and buggy. It's going right in the middle of his chest. He's a big dude, so this can be a big ass tattoo, a full chest. Like, this is gonna be like a 10-hour fucking tattoo. I got a bunch of like weird Serbian shit around it, which I added into it, and they all mean something. Don't ask me. I don't know Serbian culture. I'm not gonna, like, there's like a mouse with a top hat. There's like a fucking goat thing. There's another old dude riding a horse. There's some weird colors and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it finally fits because he's always been this good guy. I think he is a good guy. He's just obviously probably the best basketball, top two, if not the top two basketball players in the world. But all the talk these last couple weeks, because right before the playoffs started, magically, out of nowhere, this head coach and GM get fired. And I just see him, and now he's leading the team. They just, Game 7, beat the shit out of the Clippers. We'll see how they can handle the Thunder. I just imagine him actually embracing that Joker mentality, just laughing. He's the leader of the team now, if people are calling him the coach. So I just think this would be the perfect time if they make a little run here to fully embrace the dark side, the Joker nickname, and get this tattoo along with paying respects to his precious horses.
Okay.
I like it.
It actually was pretty sweet. As much as as much as I love mine and just the humor about it, I think yours probably has the leg up with that. Yeah. Hey, you can answer. Let me hear it. What's yours, Mike? Let's go to Mike's build a tat draft. What do you got for us?
All right. So my athlete was a little more obscure. Mine was basically a lifetime backup quarterback in the NFL. Still is. Josh Johnson. He's made a few starts. He was drafted in 2008 by Bucks. He's been with a few teams on a couple of different occasions, but by my count, he's on his 25th different stop. So my idea was to do a series of Russian nesting dolls for each stop. Yeah. And it starts like at the top of his chest and kind of wraps around his torso for each stop. He's got a different nesting doll for each stop, wrapping around his torso. And each nesting doll is like the team that he was at in the year he was there.
Okay.
I didn't have any quotes with it, but that was kind of my
Well, I think
idea.
I think 23 of those would probably be
25.
25. 25 of those
Yeah.
would do the trick, I would think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you guys put a little bit more thought in than I did, I guess, but hey, we'll let the listeners decide. I think, like I said, Mike's gonna get this up on socials, Facebook,
Yours.
X. Not mine. Yeah, he's definitely getting mine up there. Vote for mine. I'll get a couple of votes on listeners that I know are maybe not Badger fans, so give us some love. You could also vote multiple times if you want to. But all right, before we wrap things up here, any closing thoughts after talking Packers and the crazy world of tattoos? Anything in general before we get out of here?
You have any tattoos lined up, Colin?
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Maybe as soon as this weekend. The birthday's on Saturday, so might be a stop at friend of the show Tucker Craft. Goes to the same Artrageous. Give him a shout out. So we'll see. Maybe this weekend. Maybe I'll have something for you next week.
Sounds good.
Then the pressure will be back on you, Mike. We're gonna keep asking you every single episode. All right.
Well, Matt, my birthday's coming up too, so maybe I'll get a little gift to myself.
I'm at 15 now. The question is, do I get to 20 before Mike gets to 1?
Yes. I would say so, yes.
Wow.
Mike just needs to do it. I think he just needs to rip the Band-Aid off and just go get it. Make sure it's correct, though, Mike. For whatever you do. I know won't give anything away. I just want to make sure it all lines up and is good. I was watching, forgot what show I was watching last week, but this lady got like some tattoo in Morse code and it was incorrect and I guess like spelled or the wrong translation or something. And guess what? Can't get rid of it for cheap. So she was stuck with it. So make sure for any of those listening to double and triple check your tattoos. So, because it is kind of a permanent thing. So, all right. Well, you guys don't have any final thoughts. I think that should about wrap things up. Thanks everyone for joining us for another episode of the Dairyland Drive. Colin Talbert, Mike Schneider, Riley Ashe. We'll see you next week. Have a good rest of your week. And as always, thanks for listening.
Love you guys.